Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason live on this Tuesday. The Fed meeting has started. Yes, we're all waiting. We're all holding our breath. What could Jay Powell possibly say tomorrow? Is it going to be a rate hike? Is it not going to be a rate hike? Is he going to say, I wonder if he's going to say anything about disinflation. I'm going to guess not. But you never know. Who knows? Jason, maybe he can make up some new words as well this week. I mean, all options are on the table.
The only question is, does he make up the words or does someone send him the script? Sometimes I wonder.
Well, you know, these smart guys are usually pretty good with words, right? You know, that may be one of the things that I remember. You know, Alan Greenspan was the best. I mean, I didn't even listen. I went to public school. Full disclosure, I didn't understand half the stuff that he said. I had to look stuff up. It was so complicated. I was like, I didn't even know how to spell it, right? You know, that seemed to work a whole lot better. 800-951-0592. allamericangold.com is the website. If you've had enough, if you're tired of it, you're tired of the robbing, the thieving that's going on with these central banks and the changing of the rules, the making up of the rules, get that gold and silver put away. Here's the nice part. We've got some profit taking today, which makes sense, right? Everyone's going to wait for tomorrow in the gold and silver markets. Wall Street trying to act like it's okay. And I guess maybe for a day or two, it is. Janet Yellen was out. By the way, I've got a great little piece. I'm going to do, what was like that Wayne's World. Right? We'll go back into the past. You know, Janet Yellen, you got to remember now, Janet Yellen, she is a lifer, what I'll call a government lifer. Hasn't had a real job in the real world of any kind. She's been a central banker for decades. What's funny is she came out of the San Francisco Fed, right? Should we be surprised that once again the San Francisco Fed was asleep at the wheel with Silicon Valley Bank? And probably not, right? Same thing, First Republic, another West Coaster type institution. Then she became the number two behind Ben Bernanke, right? She created with Ben Bernanke the 2% inflation target. Yeah, let's not forget that, right? They also created quantitative easing. Yeah, that was her and Ben Bernanke, right? Quantitative tightening. Yeah, she really has her finger on all of this stuff. In 2017, so think about this, 6 years ago, while she was still the head of the Federal Reserve, she said, and I quote, "I do not believe another financial crisis like the crash and Great Recession of 2008 will happen in our lifetime." Oh, you missed it by this much. So close, right? Will I say there will never, ever be another financial crisis? No. Probably that would be going too far, she said. But I do think we're much safer. And I hope that it will not happen in our lifetime. And most importantly, I don't believe it will.
Yeah, that's not a very good prediction. What was it? Hitler, his 1,000-year Reich. It lasted 12 years. she's right there.
June 2017, as she was head of the Federal Reserve. And this is the problem, you guys. This is why I said, and this is why Jay Powell's so much worse. You know, at least Janet Yellen, I mean, she didn't know her hand from her ass, okay? But she did it with conviction, man. She did. Oh, no. I don't. Okay. I'm never going to say never, ever. But, yeah, I doubt we're ever going to see one in our lifetime again. Knowing full well they never fixed it in the first place. And now think about it. We're not even talking about systemically important banks. At least in 2008, right? Lehman Brothers, what was that, 2007? Lehman Brothers was big. I mean, they were big. I mean, they were right there with the Goldman Sachs of the world. And then, of course, Bear Stearns, they were huge. That caused all of the chaos. Now we're talking about banks that up until a few weeks ago, Jason, most people didn't even know they existed.
Well, when you
They're
have
not
less
important.
banks,
They're not stress tested. They're basically, listen, I'm sorry. In today's day and age, $170 billion of deposits doesn't seem like that much money, does it?
well, and there's less banks, Joe, and there's probably more deposits because, well, there is more deposits. The Fed printed 40% of all the money circulating around the country in 2020 alone. So you have less institutions floating around the same, a larger amount of money. So a smaller bank now has much more contagion to the system. So it's going to get worse as a few of these smaller ones fall out, Joe.
You know, and remember, right? She was also what? Transitory, right? With Jay Powell, right? I mean,
Right.
I guess if you need to do the opposite of something, outside of doing the opposite of what Jim Cramer tells you to buy, right? Maybe you should do the opposite of what Jay Powell and Janet Yellen tell us all to do. When we get back, we're going to talk about how many banks are going to be left. Glenn Beck gave his opinion. I'll tell you about that next. (800) 951 0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. The start of the Fed meeting. Yeah, they're probably getting ready for lunch, over there in D.C. And I'm sure they had a nice little catered breakfast, and they're going to have a lunch delivered, and they're probably sitting around in the conference room and putting together the fake minutes. Remember last time, right? Jay Powell, when he created disinflation, and he gave us those. So got to remember, they give a speech now, and think about all the things that have changed about the Federal Reserve. They used to not have representatives in the headquarters of these banks. They do now. Right? Think about this. The bank doesn't even have to, Jamie Dimon, he can just walk down the hall. Hey, what are you guys doing next week? Right? Hey, tell us what's happening. Right? You guys raising rates, you're lowering rates. We got to make a few trades. We gotta beef up our balance sheet here. We got to make sure we got lots of profits. They didn't have that. They used to have a meeting like they do now, and they would just announce what they did with interest rates. There was no press conference. They didn't go out on TV. They were truly independent. Used to be, before the financial crisis, do you know that they had a press conference only every other meeting? Right? So one meeting, hey, here's what we decided, no press conference. Next meeting, we'll have a press every other. Now, of course, they have one every meeting. It's very important. Matter of fact, a very important Janet Yellen all over the TV this morning, right? Very important. Because they want to convince you, hey, it's okay. Don't take your money out. No. We're working on a way to try to, at least temporarily, guarantee all deposits. Now, obviously, that should have been done 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they should have came out. For the time being, all deposits are guaranteed, right? Don't worry. You can take your money out of these banks if you want, but it's guaranteed. No. Matter of fact, what did they do? This is how dumb. This is the problem. Janet Yellen, what was it, a week ago, came out testifying in front of Congress and flat out said, oh, no, we only are going to do that for the banks where the billionaires got their money. All these other banks, we don't care. We're not guaranteeing that money. And just to give you an idea, we know the FDIC doesn't have any money, right? We know that. I mean, they willingly admitted when Silicon Valley Bank went under that they only had $125 billion. I mean, Silicon Valley Bank had $173 billion of deposits. I'm just saying that's just, I know I'm public school, but hey, that math doesn't add up. Oh, wait, and their Signature Bank, we didn't even talk about them. That's another $120 billion. There's $18 trillion of deposits in the country. So you tell me, how does that math work? Could you imagine? Right? We truly had the bank run, all the banks go under. Joe Biden, President Ass Clown, comes out on TV. We're going to increase the national debt by $20 trillion. It's idiocracy, yet they're on TV trying to convince you that they can actually do this, Jason.
Joe, last week they just out in the open world just said that the FDIC doesn't matter anymore because they just said, well, with Silicon Valley Bank, we'll cover all of it. Well, that's not the rules. So if there's no rules for the FDIC, then it just doesn't matter, does it? Because as you said, they want to guarantee the big players, the big companies, the big depositors. Well, you could have one depositor that's more than the entire FDIC, what they have in their account. So they've just basically last week proven to the whole world the FDIC doesn't matter at all.
You're actually right. There's probably, I don't know, tens, maybe hundreds of depositors that have more than $120 billion because they're big companies, right? I mean, I would imagine Apple's probably got that in their bank. I don't know what Apple's payroll is, but I'm just, guessing. You could have single depositors that have more than that. That's kind of interesting.
I'm betting those big companies, Joe, probably don't even keep their deposits in this country. How's that?
Well, they try not to. Let's face it.
Right.
They try not to. And I've been saying that to people for years. Apple doesn't have that cash sitting in the bank. They buy treasuries. And they don't buy just U.S. treasuries. Why? Because if the bank goes under, they'll still have money. It's pretty simple. Glenn Beck was out, and we may do this tomorrow on the Half Empty Cup. Jason and I haven't decided. But he was talking about the digital currency. Of course, we've been telling you starting in July, Fed now. This is actually the more important piece. This is the back end operations of a digital currency. And the Fed being able to have direct access to your bank accounts. Dangerous. So dangerous. And he was talking about how many banks are going to be left. Of course, I've been telling you maybe 100, maybe 50. You know what Glenn Beck said? 4. And he said, I don't even know if you need 4. That's it. They're coming for those deposits one way or another. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. But believe me, Jason, they're coming. They're coming for it.
Yeah, I don't know how many will remain. I think that number is going to be bigger just because even the big 4 banks, if they have, even if you have a digital currency, there's going to be some sort of, hey, someone's got to sit down, or at least on the phone or on the internet. They got to.
Well, yeah. Let me tell you why and I agree. I think there'll be more than 4, but here's why most of them go away. The vast majority of the depositors are regular people, right? And we know because the Fed tells us like every month, hey, 60% of the depositors can't afford a $500 expense above and beyond their normal expenses, right? Can't afford $1,000, right? If you get to $5,000, a $5,000 emergency, I don't know, you need a new roof, 10 grand. I don't even know what a new roof costs. The roofie guys out there go, don't 10 grand. What are you talking about, double? 10 grand, maybe 10 years ago it was 10 grand. I don't know. That you'd probably get somewhere to close to 80 or 90%. Couldn't afford that. Which basically means, hey, we're living paycheck to paycheck. With a digital currency, there's no reason for those people to have a bank account outside the bank account at the Federal Reserve, Jason, right? I mean, really, ultimately, at the end of the day, the vast majority of these depositors in this country could live at the central bank.
That's right, Joe. They would get rid of physical cash. They would, I think they wouldn't get completely rid of checks, but checks would be on their way out the door too. And then there would still be, I think, a use for it. There's got to be somebody sit down and negotiate your home mortgage, your loan, your home equity.
They'll be there for auto loans. They'll
Yep.
be there for mortgages, maybe like a line of credit, things of that nature, right? That's all you would need the banks for. So it's going to be very interesting how all this plays out. You mentioned cash. I had clients in today. I'm sorry, today. Everything's blending together. Yesterday. They were in yesterday. And they were asking, when we're talking about cash. Cash is numbered. And it's been numbered. We know this. The war on cash has been going on for decades. Right? Think about 9/11 and the impact that had on cash. Right. All of a sudden, anybody that wanted to use more than $10,000 in cash, Jason, was a terrorist. Remember? Right.
Yep.
And all the reporting right now, if you put more than $10,000 in cash into your bank account, whether you know it or not, the bank sends a little report to the IRS. Saying, hey, by the way, Joe Schmuckatelli was in here. He just put $15,000 in cash in the old bank account. Just letting you know. And I think that with the digital currency, I don't think it will be instantly. In other words, day one of the digital currency, you'll still be able to use cash. That's what my thought is. I think, though, that there's going to be soon after, maybe a year, maybe two, where they'll come out and say, okay, and here's how I think it's going to work. First, they'll use the big companies. They're going to go to Walmart. They're going to go to Kroger, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, and essentially tell them, stop taking cash. And they're going to do it. And you won't be able to use it at McDonald's, right? At Burger King. Already, you go to a pro sporting event, you go to a concert, they don't take cash. Can't go buy a beer at a Cardinals game and pay with cash. Can't do it. Right? And a lot of places, and you see them pop up from, we don't take cash. Then they'll start hitting the businesses. As it sits right now, and I've told you, right, taking cash is expensive. Remember you used to get a discount? Hey, what if I give you cash, right? Talk to the contractor guy. Hey, what if I pay you cash? You give it to me for a little less. Yeah, it actually now costs more because you get charged for deposits, cash deposits. But they'll get there, Jason, and they'll start ramping up those fees, and more companies will stop taking it. And then eventually they'll just get to the point where they're going to set a date. May 31st, 2030. On June 1st, all Federal Reserve notes, your dimes, your quarters, your pennies, right, that you've got jugs of, you got them in the coffee cans, right, wherever, you got them in the middle console of your car, right, they're all going to be worthless. So everyone's going to be scrambling to turn that money in. And you don't want to be the guy left holding the bag, right? The last guy out there taking cash And then all of a sudden they give you a drop dead date and you show up at your whatever banks that are still left. You don't want to be the guy that's got 50,000, 100,000, heaven forbid more than that in cash and trying to put it into the bank. They'll be like, excuse me, we're going to need you to step over here. And then they'll ask you a bunch of questions. How'd you get all this money? You know what? Tell you what, here's the rules right now. The IRS, we're going to, we just got to make sure. I'm sure you're fine, but we're going to give you credit for $10,000, $9,999. And let's just say you got $100,000, but this other 90,000, yeah, we're going to give you a certificate that says that you've got this 90,000, and then an IRS agent will be contacting you, and you're going to need to prove to them how you got this money. And essentially, if you can't prove it, which is going to obviously really hard to do, especially if you've been saving it for years and years and years and decades. And essentially what I think they're going to end up doing is, Jason, well, we're going to add that 100,000 you tried to put into the bank onto your income. And you're going to owe us. And the tax rate at that point will probably be, 40%, 50%. Yeah.